Soldiers of Reddit. What was something that was so funny even the drill sergeant couldn't help but giggle? Dude was told he couldn't trim his unibrow. If he did, he'd have to shave both eyebrows as well. So that's what dude did. Shaved it all. DS lost it laughing and then made the private report every morning to have them sharpied on with a new expression every day. Added. The best ones were when he was given 2 squares as eyebrows or a constant surprised look. And thanks for my first gold. I shall name him Philip. Someone in basic threw their half-eaten schnitzel into the toilet and tried to flush it. It didn't flush. He left. So we are all in our rooms as we hear one of our drills scream to get out and line up. We line up and he was one of the super serious guys. 190 meters tall. Easily 100 kilograms of pure muscle and always mean mugging everyone. He starts screaming at us telling us that we are pigs. No one knew what went on. Then he started yelling. Someone threw a freaking schnitzel into the toilet. As he finished he started smiling. First time in months I saw the dude smile. Everyone started laughing hard. He got angry again and started repeating himself. He starts laughing once he hits the schnitzel part again. We all laugh again. He just tells us we are dumbasses and someone better fish that piece of schnitzel out ASAP. From a friend at air assault. They were fast roping down off towers and there was one guy that was deathly afraid of heights but was still making his way to pass, and he was just standing there and the instructor yells something along the lines of stop being a PSSY and go. He proceeds to jump into the rope, lose his grip and fall the entire way down while screaming air assault until he hit the ground. He broke his arm and had to go with the next class. You have about 30 seconds to unfrick yourself starting 28 seconds ago. I don't know if that was an old saying amongst all of them or he made it up on the spot. But goddamn did I almost fricking lose it. I think shti that good is passed down through the generations. Some private hears his DS say it. And years later he's repeating it. Fort Benning. Drills were searching for contraband after a private was found with chewing tobacco. One of the DS got a broom handle and started pushing the ceiling tiles up to see if anything would slide out. A happy sock fell out and hit him in the face. The other DS walked off into the office. He was laughing the whole time. We were smoked into oblivion. Navy boot camp in Orlando, Florida in August of 1989. The company was split up in 2. On either side of the center line facing the front of the bay. Our company commander had us doing 4-count jumping jacks where we all had to clap on the 2nd and 4th together. It had to sound like one clap. There were 68 of us and even though we struggled, all of us eventually got it. Well, all of us but one. This poor guy just could not clap with the rest of us. He was eventually pulled up to the front of the bay where he would lead the exercise. At the last second. Every time. He would change his pace and ruin it. The company commander smiled throughout and eventually just keeled over laughing at this guy. It's funny though that I don't remember being angry even though we must have been doing jumping jacks for about 3 hours in 100-degree heat. I do remember that the only reason we quit was because the cement floor was too slippery with sweat to safely continue. OMG. I have the best story for this. Basic training. Some dude was getting a reprimand from the course officer because he was a bag of fail. He got briefed by the platoon sergeant beforehand to march to the door, salute the officer, and wait to be instructed what to do. But this guy was as dumb as a brick. So he marches to the door and stands there looking stupid. The sergeant waits a good long while hoping this kid will clue in. And nothing happens. Finally he yells at him, well, aren't you going to pay compliments to the officer? And numpty stammers for a bit and finally chirps out. You're looking really nice today, sir. Sergeant yells at him to GTFO. And slams the door and the entire course staff nearly died from laughter. It took an hour for us to stop laughing long enough to call him back and actually give him the reprimand. I was on the floor with tears in my eyes. For years afterwards. Anytime we would see that officer we would stop him to tell him he was looking nice. It never stopped being funny. Our sergeant liked to take his Smokey Bear hat and tap recruits on the bridge of their nose while yelling at them that he wasn't touching them. I happened to fall in behind him walking down the bay. He thought it would be a good idea to spin around and poke the brim of his hat into somebody's face. Hit me square in the chest. I'm 6'6" tall. I can't even remember what he yelled exactly. But he was trying very hard not to laugh. Then spun back around and went into his office with the assistant's TI. They started laughing so loud that we all heard it. Bay Inspection Day. The company first SGT and commander are going through each platoon's bay and checking everyone's ST and casually grilling the recruits on the base's command tree. Our company first SGT goes to our platoon leader and asks him what position does Command Sergeant Major insert name hold in this base? It's a trick question. The answer simply being, Command Sergeant Major. And X200B. Anyways. The platoon leader hesitates before belting out something extremely retro-dead. I don't remember verbatim. But it was something similar to, Command Sergeant Major insert name is the Star Commander Leader Chief of Fort Benning. First Sergeant. Comma. Everyone freezes. Even the drill sergeants don't even breathe. The company first SGT stares at this guy for like 20 seconds before muttering loudly. Comma, you frickin' retardee. Comma, and shakes his head and leaves the bay. Doesn't even punish him. Even the DS is laughing and calling him a fricking dumbus. Was pretty excellent and everyone broke out laughing when they left. One time my ankles were legit hurting really bad. Cankles in new boots, yay. So I asked the DS if I could go to the infirmary. He said yes. I said, comma, thanks. Dude. Comma. He laughed and said, you know, I gotta smoke you for that, and he did, but it was nice to see the human side for the first time. A master corporal was calling drill for us once and his voice cracked on the command. So he went from yelling in his normal kind of deep voice, he was a big dude, to a loud shrill dude impersonating a woman kind of voice. Everyone took a second, but the other instructors for our platoon cracked and everyone just kind of laughed. Air Force, so not a soldier and we don't have a DS, we have a training instructor, but everyone has duties assigned such as manning the supply closet, aligning beds, laundry, etc. Well, I was the designated toilet cleaner. After cleaning all of the toilets except one, I used this moment to try to take a quick poop before cleaning the toilet. Suddenly I hear our brother Flight's TI come storming through yelling at everyone and everything. Eventually making his way into the bathroom. Being the dumbus I was too scared to leave the stall as 1. I was terrified to flush the toilet, alerting the primal beast. 2. I wasn't done pooping. 3. This was the first time I've had to poop for 2 weeks and was a defining moment for me. It didn't matter though, because suddenly I hear, comma, HOWWW can WEE be cleaning the latrine when someone is taking a poopy? Comma. Sir. Trainee real bug reports as ordered. I was BRRRNT. All I heard was the exit door open and a stifled, comma, hurry up. Years ago while doing basic. During the course, you obviously have lots of drill training. Marching. Standing at attention. At ease. Turning, etc. We're all in the drill hall practicing away. When somehow one of the recruits lets out a high-pitched squeal and falls over. Dude managed to squish his nuts together somehow while coming to attention. All 3 instructors sprinted over and started jacking him up, and we're laughing so hard at the same time that they are almost crying. Not exactly a drill sergeant, but during basic training we were marching in formation when we suddenly hear a thump. Turns out one of our comrades dropped his helmet. Of course our instructor saw this and responds with, Ein deutscher Helm tilde LLT nur einmal. Comma, a German helmet is only dropped once. Pretty common military textbook phrase. He commands the soldier to pick up his helmet and we carry on marching. About 30 seconds later we hear the same sound again. So I turn around and ask myself how you can possibly fail the simple task of helmet retention. You basically just clip it to your carry rig. while already waiting to hear the instructor saying the same phrase again. What do I see? Our instructor turning around, doing his personal walk of shame and picking up his helmet. Let's just say we weren't short on beer when we celebrated the end of basic. When we were doing combatives, I made a Pulp Fiction reference because the guy wrestling kinda looked like Samuel L. Jackson, and I caught one of the drill sergeants chuckling. All I said was, "Does Marcellus Wallace look like a BTCH? Lol." In Air Force BMT you have to carry this stupid flashlight with you when marching that had this yellow cone on it. One guy in my flight got tired of holding it, so he decided to have his belt hold it like a Jedi would have done with his lightsaber. Well, the instructor sees us and tells him that he has to quick pull out your lightsaber and fight Darth Vader right behind you, another trainee. Watching these two idiots have a lightsaber fight was the funniest thing I've seen, which must have been for my instructor, since he walks away belly laughing at the two retro dead Star Wars nerds. After a long and horrible 20-mile run in 100-degree temperatures, the DS leans way in towards one private who looks ready to die. I bet you wish I die just so you could PSS on my grave. Right. No. Drill sergeant. And why is that? Cause once I get out of the army, I'm never standing in another line again. Drill sergeant. And why is that? Cause once I get out of the army, I'm never standing in another line again. Navy Boot Camp 2008. We had a big Samoan guy in our division who loved singing Disney songs. This dude started singing A Whole New World in a shower with 80 other dudes, and all of us started singing along. I can remember our RDC just shaking his head and grinning. This has absolutely nothing to do with boot camp or drill sergeants, but back in high school we would change in the restrooms after pay, and one of my friends started doing the Jurassic Park theme. Eventually everybody joined in, to the point that around 13 teenagers were changing out of their pay clothes while singing it. This big black guy named Aaron walked in and said, "Are you all singing Jurassic Park?" There was a pause of silence and my friend replied, "Yeah." Aaron goes, "Oh yeah, that's my shti. Danana. Then everyone continued changing and singing while Aaron did the same while sitting on the toilet, lol. It's my father's story, but I think it'll be appreciated here. Mobile formatting. English not my first language. Yada yada. Late 70s. Maybe 1980. Eastern Europe. Service was mandatory for all able-bodied men. My father spent 11 months as a comms operator. Now for the story. Lunchtime. All line up in front of the canteen. Sarge gets his daily dose of shouting. Now I must mention that the East was never really good at making long-lasting clothes, so the buttons on the uniform had a tendency to fall off. It was mostly your own responsibility to sew it back, but most of the soldiers used a quicker but flimsier method using matchsticks. IDK how that works. Sarge stops in front of a smaller private, looks at his uniform, grabs the top button, gives it a pull. It comes right off. 1-0. Shouts the sergeant. Then moves to the next button on the private's coat. Yanks it right off. 2-0. He shouts. Then he grabs the next button. Gives it a pull. And nothing. Another try. Still nothing. That one was still sewn on there. Private looks him in the eye and shouts, 2-1. Two conscripts, friends of mine, were in front of Sergeant Major's office to report sick. Our drill sergeant walks past them to ask what's wrong. Female says her jaw is hurting enough to see a doc. And the guy pointed down on his private part. Drill sergeant cracked up laughing. No. The two things wasn't related. Every time an instructor enters the room, the first person who sees him yells, "Room." And everybody in the room immediately stands at attention until told to ease. This day, the instructor enters to room while the first guy was mid-sentence. He sees the instructor. What? Everybody jolts to attentions. Comma, for tomorrow's inspection we are going to. Comma, he pauses. Turns to the first guy. Dot. Did you yell what? Comma. Dude nods his head. The instructor laughed. It wasn't a drill sergeant, but a small group leader or SGL. The equivalent for the school that you go to when you become a sergeant. A couple of rangers put a blow-up doll above my buddy's bunk. The SGL was hinted that there was contraband in the room. The SGL came in swinging a golf club and poking ceiling tiles. Out drops a blow-up doll with "Shut up BTCH" written and duct tape over its mouth. My friend laughs and says, "That ain't mine." They flip the doll over and it says, "Will's BTCH" on its ass. Former German army officer here. When I was a platoon commander in basic training, there was a recruit who was really small in height. I'd say 150 centimeters. 155 tops. Anyway, one day the platoon was cleaning their rooms and one of the NCOs entered said recruit's room. Sure enough, one of them notices the superior. Yells, "Attention," and everyone stops doing what they're doing and go into attention. But the little guy was just in the process of cleaning the windows and just so happened to fit right into the window frame in an upright position. So as the NCO scans the room, he is presented with the sight of 3 huge bodybuilding soldiers and a tiny one standing at attention within a window frame. The poor guy just lost it. When he returned to me, he was still crying tears. We all had these shitty plastic name tags before getting our official one stitched onto our uniforms. They were to be marked by first and middle initials followed by the last name. For example, mine said AA Porg. Had a dude in my platoon whose, not his real name, but same concept, tag said Edged Smith. Naturally, the drill instructor asked him what the frick was up with his name tag. Shouted with complete enthusiasm. Comma, "My name is Edward James Allen Thomas Smith, sir." Comma. Needless to say, the DI didn't expect him to actually have 5 names. Nor did he expect to hear it so proudly stated. He covered his face with his hat. My driver's license picture. Okay. You know how nobody has a good picture? I was afraid that I'd look high if I kept my neutral expression. So I decided to look animated. Ended looking like, and this is the description given by a fellow private, a meth addict Jack Sparrow. Freshly escaped from a loony bin. Drill sergeant took one look at it. Damn near fell down laughing. This is a repost but it still fits, so why not? And X200B. Not basic training, but when I was in Manassas, Pensacola for air crew school, the officer candidate school was across the street and every morning both schoolhouses would line up for inspection. In Navy air crew school there are tons of guys that failed out of buds for SEALs training, so actual Navy SEALs are legends. There was one candidate in OCS that was prior enlisted and a SEAL with his trident. One morning we were lined up outside waiting for our instructors to come out, but the OCS candidates were already out there getting a dress whites inspection. When the OCS gunny came to the SEAL, he was standing with a heavy lean to his left. He had dropped his shoulder down a good 3-4 inches. The gunny starts going off on him, telling him how fricked up he is. The SEAL looks him right in the eye and points to his chest and just says, "Sorry. My trident is kind of heavy." Comma. The gunny just stepped over to the next guy in line without saying a word. That dude's legend status was confirmed that day. PT. Physical training. Test. We're doing the sit-up portion where you have to do a set number of sit-ups in 2 minutes. One cadet holds the other's feet down while the other does the sit-ups. The whistle blows. And one cadet starts hammering out sit-ups while his buddy holds his feet. The cadet doing sit-ups lets out the most thunderous fart known to man. The other holding his feet shouts, "You gotta be freaking kidding me?" Comma. Everyone, including the MTIs, were laughing. Basic at FT. Seoul, Oklahoma. We were all taking basic life support classes and we had a medic come through and show us some basics. As the class progressed, he stopped to take a moment to answer any questions. One of the recruits, who was different, Asked what to do if the helmet was to fuse to someone's skull. Everyone was pretty dumbfounded at the question and his seriousness. Our DS had seen and heard some things in their time, but that was next level. P.S. If the helmet gets hot enough to melt onto someone's skull, that person is probably dead and you probably don't have to worry about treatment. Drill sergeants will often play a trick on new recruits with MREs. MREs come with crackers that are super dry and I am pretty sure they are made with sawdust. Well, they say that if you can eat them all in 2 minutes without drinking anything you can have the day off. So all of us dumbasses tried it. Eat crackers is no big deal. Right? Yeah. Most of us couldn't even handle half of that. One kid had all 8 jammed in his mouth, fruitlessly chewing on a cracker paste. And then he sneezed. About 2 weeks into basic, a bunch of us PVTs asked our senior drill sergeant if he could do something about one of the private's bathroom problem. This kid, 17 at the time, would take a douche every morning after PT. And it smelled so bad no one could stand going in there. The drill didn't believe us it was that bad. So one day after PT he goes in there to find out for himself. The conversation afterwards will never leave my memory. Drill. Private. What is your favorite scent of February's? PVT. Drill sergeant. My favorite scent is PSSY drill sergeant. Drill and everyone else. Intense laughter drill. Private. You can't say that sh*t in the army anymore. At this point the drill sergeant is just trying not to lose his sh*t. That was the best day in basic for us as well. Because that drill told the rest. And we didn't get smoked all day because they were too busy talking sh*t about us and left us alone. Army basic training at Fort Leonard Wood. We were on a 3-day field training exercise. Think camping in the wilderness. Army style. The drill sergeants were testing our ability to put on our gas masks by occasionally throwing CS gas grenades at our feet. Well, I collected the burned grenade casings. I scraped the soot out of them and applied the soot to several tent flaps of the opposing platoon during our mock war. Several soldiers got the soot on their hands and subsequently touched their faces. Burning agony followed by our drill sergeants trying to figure out what was going on. I confessed and they got a good laugh out of it before smoking me. My dad's story. He was an airman in the 80s and one day his friends woke him up to tell him that their stove wasn't working and they wanted to make tea. They woke him up because he was one of the only people that went to university for electrical engineering. He tore a wire out of the wall to fix their stove. And later that day, the senior lieutenant gathered everyone to tell them that nearly half the building was missing power. Everyone immediately looked at him. And he just quietly whispered, "Tea is tea." When we were being taught about hand grenades at Paris Island, one of the recruits asked the drill instructor if somebody threw a grenade at him could he just put his helmet on it and lay on the helmet. The drill instructor just looked at him over the top of his glasses and said, "You do that and save us all." Battery had a horny little B-star with the last name White and a brand new girl with the last name of Rice. Sergeant Major was on a rant and informed us that if we fricked up, he'd be all over us like white on rice. Someone helpfully snapped to attention and notified the Sergeant Major that both White and Rice were on parade. He seemed confused by the interruption, then incorporated the info, checked it over a couple times, and went red with embarrassment. I don't think he intended to imply that Whitey was hitting that. Bless whoever the fast thinker was who called that out. He said what we were all thinking. Was a recruit at FT Jackson. I have the unfortunate luck of having the last name of Sailor. DS kept asking me why I didn't join the Navy with a name like that. I was tired of hearing it and came up with something clever to respond with. So the next time I got asked the question we were standing in the chow line. Without missing a beat I responded, "Well DS. There was something about being called seaman I was afraid of being swallowed." DS just shook his head and said fricking sailor, and that was the last time I got asked that question. There were quite a few Puerto Ricans in my basic training platoon. And some of them struggled with English. We didn't mind helping them along. And of course, we took every opportunity to teach them the bad words first. One day, at lunch chow, we taught one young fellow the word, queef, and what it meant. We weren't supposed to be talking at chow time, of course. So the drill sergeant honed in and made the young fellow stand up and tell him what they were talking about. He stood at parade rest and said, loud and proud, what he was taught. You could see that the drill sergeant wanted to yell at him for talking, but couldn't keep his composure. And the two got away with it this time.